there, this is Montina Portis, and you are in the studio. I tell you what, we have a special guest today, and actually with really important information for us, and let me introduce him. It's Mr. Barry Nixon. Barry Nixon, SHRM SCP, is the Executive Director, National Institute for Prevention of Workplace Violence. He is certified in HR management, workplace security, anger management, and trauma response. Mr. Barry Nixon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, right now, when we're doing this recording, it's in light of just violence that's going on in terms of our society. But tell us, workplace violence, active shooter and mass shootings, are the incidents actually on the rise?
Well, it's an interesting question because if we look at workplace violence incidents in terms of homicides at work overall, they actually have been decreasing significantly since the 1900s, where the average was well over 1,000 a year, and now it's probably under 400. But if we look at mass shootings, which certainly get in the news when they occur, they actually have been increasing over the last several years. And a mass shooting is basically where 4 people or more are killed.
And I told you when you came in that I actually have a background where I worked in business continuity, and disaster recovery. And, you know, we joke and say, if an active shooter came in, what are we going to do? We'd run. But we talked about having a plan. How important is it to really have a plan? It's
actually critical in terms of people surviving. So it's a life or death issue. And interesting enough, running is one of the options. When people do active shooter training, what they talk about is run, hide, or fight. And run is the first option. If you can escape and get out of the building, get out of the area, then that's obviously the most advisable action to take. If you don't have a clear path out, then you want to hide somewhere where you're not seen and visible to the shooter, or they can't get to you. And then the last option, which is the least desirable, but you may find yourself in that circumstance where you have to fight for your life.
Yeah, it sounds important. Now, are workplace and school shooting incidents inevitable, or are they preventable?
Well, I always have to say on the front end, all incidents are not preventable because some things just come out of the blue. It's no way you could have anticipated it or planned for it. But I would say that the vast majority of incidents are preventable if, in fact, we do the right things on the front end. Back to your question, if you have a plan.
Right.
And you have really started to implement that and practice drills and done things so that people know what to do, then a lot of these incidents could actually either be prevented or certainly the amount of mayhem reduced.
Wow, sounds pretty important. Now, is there anything that everyday people or employees can do to help prevent violent incidents in the workplace?
It's actually a very critical question because the reality is we don't have enough policemen, we don't have enough security guards that can police everything. So everyday citizens, employees really have a very critical and important role to play. And that is really, I mean, you hear this notion of you see something, say something.
Yes.
And while it sounds like a popular slogan, it actually is very important for people to be able to and be willing to point out when they see something that's out of the ordinary or that's unusual and bring that either to security or police's attention. Then that gives them the opportunity to preempt the situation and perhaps discover something before it actually plays out. The classic example of this, which we see all the time, is the country of Israel. It's not just the law enforcement there. Every citizen understands that they are potentially in harm's way. If they see a bag that's unattended, they report it.
Yes.
And so again, we have to get to the point where we're willing to do that and not embarrassed or it's not my issue or whatever. So yes, citizens have a very important role to play.
All right, we have to wrap it up here in the studio. Mr. Barry Nixon, all of his information is right here on your screen. And he gave us something that's very important and that I had not heard before. We know stop, drop, and roll, but he said you need to run, hide, or fight. And I tell you what, keep that in mind. Again, thank you for joining us here in the studio, Mr. Nixon.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you. All right, all of our information is right there on the screen. If you would like to be a guest in the studio with us, we'd love to have you.